Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the office studio. We have some of our past projects in the background. This was a car I had way back when. This was my turboed Astra. For those of you that followed me for my work on my Astra recently, back in the UK. And for those that you don't know, that because I've had a comment recently, I actually used to live in the UK, but now I'm in the northern suburbs of Chicago. So we've moved over here, and all of the work that I do nowadays is based over here in America. But the reason we are here today is to talk about this for the R7 motorcycle. So I used to, again, for those of you that don't know and just make assumptions, I used to race back in the UK in the Mini Twin series on a Suzuki SV650, and I used to use a Shorai battery, a lithium battery on my SV650. I tried to look at the specs of what I used to use because the R7 is kind of comparable to the SV650 in terms of engine size. But I couldn't find it, so I went ahead and did a comparison of the specs of the standard R7 battery in relation to the Shorai. So if we look at that second and third row there, you'll see the most important figures are the cold crank amps, the CCA. So the standard R7 lead acid battery, or whatever it is, can deliver around 130 or so cold crank amps. So this lithium option, we have gone for the third item in this list, LFX09L2BS12. The difference between the A2 and the L2 is the position, as you can see, of the positive and negative posts. And for the R7, the L2 is the one that we want, which will match the standard post positions. You'll also see the capacity in milliamp hours. Now, if you look at the lead acid spec versus a lithium battery, you'll see it might have more milliamp hour rating, but this is an equivalent. So the lithium version, although it might be rated slightly lower than the lead acid, you'll find that this is much comparable. And the main issue that we're looking for is that CCA value. How much can it actually crank from cold? So I went with the 9 version, LFX09. If you actually Google and search for the equivalent R7 battery, you'll probably end up buying one of these huge batteries down here, which we don't actually need. The weight in grams is ridiculous when you compare it to the weight of the lead acid battery. I will weigh this on a scale to show you the difference eventually. But I just wanted to give a quick run through. This is the one that I've gone for. And if we this is the first time I've even opened the box, which I'm not going to be able to do with one hand, am I? Oh, there we go. Let's try that. So in the box, you will generally get not just the battery, but some spacers, because the battery is a much different size sometimes to the standard battery. We've got some spare bolts to connect our wires to the posts. And here we have our battery. And you know, when you compare this to a lead acid, the weight involved is ridiculous. It's barely there. So again, I will put it on those scales and we'll get a weight for it, but this is the one that I've gone for. And I'm going to run some tests. So my initial thought is to run this for the track days, and I will take my lead acid battery as a spare. So if I have any issues with it, then I will be on track and someone can collect me. I won't be halfway between home and work and need recovery. If this happens to fail or doesn't work for some reason, we're going to find out on the track. So a safe zone for us to figure this out. So in a few weeks' time, I will be on track in Black Hawk Farms, west of Chicago. So we're going to be running this battery for that event, and any issues we will soon know. But I'm quietly confident in this. So everyone says that you are going to need a specific charger, which is correct, because this has a balance port on it. The balance port inside this battery are not just one or two, but a multiple of cells. Cells are, let's say, individual parts of the battery that make up the full voltage that we need. And to charge one of these correctly, let's just say that, then you use the balance port, and the balance port will charge each cell of the battery equally. And what I'm about to say, you can take it with a pinch of salt if you want, but I ran one of these batteries on my race bike for 3-4 years, and I never used a balance charger. The only thing that charged this battery during all those 3 or 4 years was my bike. So when I was running the bike, the alternator charged up this battery for me, and I never used a specific lithium ion charger to charge the battery. The bike did it for me. Again, it was only a track bike, I understand. But I'm, again, quietly confident if you strap this to your bike and run it as a normal battery, you won't need a specific charger. Now, I will caveat that with any length of time that the bike wasn't running or on track, in storage, I took the battery out of the bike. Okay? If you are leaving this over winter, then you might have issues. My advice would be, if you know you're not using your bike for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, months, take the battery out. Okay? Doing so, again, will maintain the life of the battery. It'll never go, below voltage and require that specific charger. I used mine in the bike, no specific charger. Sorry for the dogs. And was absolutely fine. Okay, so the moment of truth. We have extracted the battery out of the R7, and there you can see the 130 CCA cold crank amps and the rating of 6 amp hours. Again, this one has a rating of, bear with me, about half of that, 3,000, okay? But bear in mind, there is an equivalence to do there. So this is about half or double, if you want to call it that, the amp hour rating of a standard lead acid. And if you Google that, you'll see that there's an equivalence to be had there. And again, the main thing is the cold crank amps. So let us weigh the standard battery. Let's hope that my scales go as high as this. So we have 4.98 pounds. If we go to grams, can we do that? So around about 2.1 kilograms. Now let's weigh our Shorai. 600 grams, or a pound and 5 ounces. Let's put this stock one on. So we're getting at least 3.5 pounds, or 1.4 kilograms of weight out of the bike, which is pretty substantial. If you try to remove that amount of weight from your bike in any other way, good luck to you. But it's hard to find as much weight difference from one single modification as just putting in a lightweight battery. So there you go. So we're going to plumb this in and see how the bike starts with this battery in place. Sorry for the sauce. This is our kitchen weighing scales, so forgive that, but whatever. In terms of the size, so it's an equivalent kind of footprint really to the stock battery, but the height, as you can see, is different, and the width is a little bit different. So, and again, you can use some of the padding that comes within the box. So these all come out, and you can use those as padding to fill out the space. Okay, so the next question I want to answer is, how good is the charge of the battery straight out of the box? This came from a supplier on eBay. Took a couple of days to get here. That doesn't mean anything, I'm just stating some facts. So what I'm going to do is measure the present voltage in my lead acid battery. The bike hasn't been run for about probably a week. And if we measure our voltage across the terminals, you can see we have 12.85 volts DC on the standard battery. If we switch to the lithium, we have 13.3, so we've already got a higher voltage coming out of this lithium battery than the stock, so we know it's good to go in the bike and see if it will crank. I'm sure it will. The screws that come with the battery have this little sponge on the kind of nut thing, because when you put these into the screw posts, you actually want the nut to kind of rise up and meet the screw, and the sponge helps that to happen. The sponge lives behind the nut in the post and lifts up the nut so that when you screw in the bolt, it's there ready to receive. So eventually that will kind of wear down my experience over 3 or 4 years. Again, you know, you might need to kind of lever that nut up a little bit occasionally, but for the most part that's what it's there for and does a good job. Okay, so there is the battery in the bike. You can see we've got plenty of space around the battery, which again we can fill up with those foam pieces if we want to. The strap will probably still work as long as we put a little piece underneath it. But the main concern is, will the bike crank over and start? And so that's what we're going to see now. So I literally walked out of the office and connected up the terminals. So these are 10mm bolts. The standard is 8mm. So you'll need a slightly different socket to tighten these up. I always advise using a socket rather than the screw head, so that you maintain the integrity of the screw. These look like to be aluminium screws, so I always advise that you use a socket rather than a screwdriver. But nevertheless, we are now going to switch on the bike. There's the dash coming up. Give it a few seconds. So with a lithium battery, sometimes it's wise to just let the electricity flow for a few seconds before you try and start the bike, especially if it's cold. Today it's a very warm day over here in Chicago. So let's see. This is the first time I'm trying this. Let's see if it cranks nice and easy. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, well, I don't need to run that for very long, but you could see how easy that started. And again, so my background with work is electrical engineering. I know this battery is going to work perfectly fine in this bike. Is it going to work perfectly fine in the middle of winter in minus 15 degrees winters in Chicago? Not so sure, but for everyday usage, very confident in this battery. Again, just to be very conservative, I'll use this initially on the track. My bike will use all of its lights still. They are all fitted. The headlight, tail light is still fitted on this bike. So if we have any issues during the day with this battery, we'll soon know. But I know already it's going to be perfectly fine. So again, this is just passing on my experience. You do whatever you want to do. If you want to buy the correct charger for this battery, please go ahead, buy the correct battery, maintain it as per manufacturer instructions. I'm just saying I've used this exact same battery in a race bike, never needed the Shorai charger, never needed the balance charger. I just let the bike charge it. If I'm leaving the bike for a reasonable period, I'll take the battery out. And that is just my experience, what I know works. So anyway, you now know the details of a lithium battery, what fits in the bike, starts the bike perfectly well. And again, we'll soon see if there's any problems, but I can absolutely guarantee you there'll be no problems with this battery. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Soon we will be back. I've got some interesting news with regards to transportation of the bike to track days. So the next video might be something to do with that. We're getting very close to my first track day on the R7. In about, literally a month and a week or two, we'll be out on track on the R7, and I cannot wait. It's been 5 years-ish since I've been out on a track on a bike, and I'm so excited. Cannot wait to get out there and see what the R7 can do. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, this is me talking about my experience and what I think is going to work, and very excited about this battery. Just look at how much weight you've saved, but not only, just think about where that weight is. It's high up in the bike, okay? So it's making transitions in the corner easier because that weight's not there. We're lowering the center of gravity on this bike by having that battery there. And I know you might say, well, it's only, pound or two, kilogram or two, whatever it is, but it all makes a difference. Trust me. I've built race bikes. I've raced bikes. For all of you doubters out there that think I just commute to work on it, trust me. I've been there, done it, got a few trophies, got a few wins under my belt, and very excited about this battery being in the bike now. It's going to make a difference. You might not feel it, you might not think that it's a difference, but trust me, it's a difference. Anyway, I'll stop rambling and let you get on. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next video.